gentlemen, let me first begin my speech by recapping what the PM has said about intentions of sports and what is the spirit of sport, ladies and gentlemen. Well, first of all, what do we play sports for? Because we would like to exercise ourselves, to gain us health, to make us become healthy. For joy, for fun, that is why we play sports. To unite people is actually one of the reasons. And to have better personalities, better lifestyle, that is why we play sport. But in today's sports status, especially in the elevated status, for example, the Olympics and World Cup, many great events, and even local leagues like the football leagues, we have seen that it causes a lot of problems in the society. And I will elaborate more in my arguments. But before I move on, I will have a couple of rebuttals to make. First thing, when the LO came up and talked about uniting people, and he gave the example of South Africa and Nelson Mandela, who used rugby to unite people. Well, that may be the case because the sport event was actually prepared to help people unite together, and more importantly, that it is the people inside one country. But when we talk about the Olympics that cost a lot of money, that it is not going to work that in my second rebuttal, but for now, the Olympics does not proven to any substantiative level of practicality that it has unite people around the world, and that was my POI. Because we cannot see in any sense that the Olympics has affected the people to love each other more and to become united more and make peace happen in the world. But on the second argument, ladies and gentlemen, on the second rebuttal, talking about the benefit in economic terms of the sports, when he talks about people, the big sports events like Olympics and World Cup that has a lot of sponsors. Well, that is true that Nike's, Adidas, and many Pumas, many sports brands do support and sponsor the event. But the three major sponsors of the London Olympic Games that cost $768 million in total were McDonald's, Heineken, and Coca-Cola. These three companies promote bad and unhealthy lifestyles. So are you going to send a bad message to society that whatever your company is presenting, if it has money, it can present the sport? That is not the case we want, ladies and gentlemen. But more importantly, right, even though they were talking about sponsorship and that the economics will prosper because there will be profit in selling tickets and planes and hotels, all those stuff, but they were becoming ignorant of the fact. That might be the ideology and that might be true. But in this real world, the Olympics in 2008 in Beijing, the officials have actually said it has lost about $100 million from its capital investment of about $500. So all in all, after 4 years after all the tourism place was in the Net Stadium, they have lost a total of approximately $100 million, and that is a whole lot of amount of money. But not only in Beijing, in London as well. In London Times, the newspaper, and also the officials from London have actually said that they were quite that the tourism were quite unresponsive to the event and that the capital investment is not going to be repaid. In other words, they're going to lose the profit. The hotels have proclaimed this and bemoaned this through the newspaper. The officials have said it. So therefore, this entire argument should fail about the economy. So moving on to my arguments on how sports would harm the society and the people. And that would actually answer his very first rebuttal on how exercising will be bad. Well, we do admit that exercise at home is okay. But when we are talking about elevated status of sport, that is what we regret, ladies and gentlemen. The first thing, on the first level, is we're going to talk about the athletes themselves. The athletes, especially the major figures inside the sports club. We see that they use a lot of steroids, a lot of drugs, a lot of enhancement drugs that are not only illegal, but they are unhealthy to them as well. So forget about the illegality of those drugs, because if they get caught, they will be penalized anyway. But if they not get caught, they will continue to use those drugs to participate in those sport activities, and they are bad for their hearts, bad for the lungs, bad for the brains, and bad for the muscles. So that is how elevated status of sports have made us regret it, because the sport is no longer making the fun out of it, or making us being healthier. It makes us become less healthier, and the sport is now about business. And the second thing about athletes, we think that they are practicing too hard, and not necessarily from their own intentions, but from the coaches. They want to push them over their limits, and their body cannot handle all the losses or the damage of the impacts, especially when we are talking about high impact sports like running, jogging, or jumping. Yes?
I would like to ask you, concrete examples of people who have died because of unhealthy use of sport?
There's not, I don't think that is quite important. But the thing that is important is that there is a concrete evidence that using steroids is bad. And there's also concrete proofs that using steroids has been observed in sports nowadays, ladies and gentlemen. And not just steroids, but more important, more illegal and more harmful drugs, like the drugs that can make you addicted to it. No, thank you. On the second thing that I will talk about is about the fans of the sport, especially the major figures. For example, when football players come in a match and fans go against each other, that might result in a fight. And although just sportsmen do not have anything to do with these fights, but it is the elevated status of sports. The sports today is about just winning, doing whatever it takes to win and not to play for unity and play for fun. Therefore, fans can fight each other, maybe word abuse or even physical abuse and violence can occur. For example, in London, that they have blocked the streets and fight each other for over 200 people. The fans of Manchester United and the fan of the blue, Chelsea, that the fans have fought each other 2 years ago, ladies and gentlemen. The second thing about the fans is they buy a lot of things that are expensive, and there's the brand names of those clubs, and it is not important. But more importantly, we see that the economy has lost and has suffered, as I've mentioned in my rebuttals, that the Olympics has lost profit a lot, and the sponsorship of the Olympics Games are actually the companies that promote unhealthy lifestyles of our everyday life, and that is not the message we would like to send. But on my very last level, it is the most important, that we set the wrong value to society from this elevated status of sports on three things. First, sportsmanship. That today the sports is just about winning. It's not about forgiving all the accidents, or it's not about trying to applaud the person who wins or applauding or giving the win to the person who is really the best, rather to the bribery or to the cheatings that may occur. The second thing is the overpriced athlete, that athletes are paid too much. For example, in the Olympics, the winning person can get up to 30 million baht, just the gold medal. And how are they going to do after they have graduated from the age that they are old enough? They are too old to participate in sports. And we see that this sends the wrong value to society. And more importantly, the sports is no longer playing for their health, but playing for business and winning. Thank you.